Hey friends, it's Catherine here from Sacred Heart Alchemy and Divinely Inspired Feminine Leaders. I wasn't planning on really coming on Facebook today, but you know how something all of a sudden comes to your attention? Well, this is what happens for me anyway. Something triggers my awareness of something, and then it sort of opens a whole bunch of other things that are connected to it. So I happen to be checking the date today because I'm going to meet a friend to see a show tonight. And as I looked at the date, I realized it was a year ago this week that I was in Machu Picchu. And it just so happens that I was in Machu Picchu with this friend. And it's not someone who I see a lot. We just sort of randomly, get together. And it turned out when I was going on that trip and I happened to share it, he said, wow, I would love to do that. So he ended up, we went as friends on this trip last year. And just before that trip, so the trip was in, the second week of April. And at the end of March, I sort of announced on Facebook and in my emails that I send out to my email list that I was going to take a month-long sabbatical because I had really hit a wall. I was exhausted. I had constant pain in one eye, just pressure, and my energy, my creativity had really tanked. And, there were a whole bunch of things leading up to that. One was Lyme that sort of never quite fully, I never fully quite got my energy back. And then we went into COVID, and although it was never diagnosed, I'm pretty sure I had COVID right at the beginning because I was in Florida, literally flew home the day before when we went into lockdown, and then got really sick for a while. And because I am who I am, I kept seeing clients through that whole time. Full caseload online during COVID with all of the challenges that brought along with it. And about 6 months later, realized I had just hit a wall hard and couldn't keep up what I was doing. Not if I was going to maintain my health, my mental health, my physical health, my energy, right? And so I decided that I was going to take the sabbatical. The trip to Machu Picchu was sort of a lead into that. And I figured, I'll take the month of April off. Well, as it turned out, I took off April, and then I decided to take off May, and then June, July, August, September. And then in October, I was still lying very low, but I took a 3-week cross-country trip. It was really, I was getting my energy back. It was going to be a fun trip. And it was very restorative. So I went and saw some old friends in Oregon and Utah, swung down into Asheville, North Carolina to visit my son and soon-to-be future daughter-in-law, did a Vortex and tour with Deanne Hampton in the mountains around Asheville, which was really amazing. And since that time, I'm definitely feeling my energy being restored. Oh, I should mention one of the probably most significant things that I did was to pretty much cut my caseload in half. I knew that I could not continue to be online all day, seeing clients and, again, maintain my own, mental, emotional, and physical well-being. So what I had announced to be sort of a 1-month sabbatical from social media really turned into about an 8-month sabbatical from social media. I began sort of putting my toes back in here and there, posting something once in a while. And, if you've been paying attention, not that my social media life is probably all that interesting to most of you, but you may notice that I'm not posting as often because I just made a choice that unless I felt really compelled to share something, I wasn't just going to be on posting for the sake of posting. And I was just going to sort of let my energy, my body, my whatever was sort of top of mind at the time, if it felt important and compelling, then I would jump on and share either through a post or through a live. And that's pretty much how I've been operating in my life over this period of time. You know, the first 6 months, I really stepped back from a lot and then just began to, as I say, put my toes back in the water very slowly, taking a course here, making a commitment there. I've done a couple of my, put out a couple of my own programs since, but I've really been taking it slow and listening to my body. If I need to rest, I rest. If it feels right to go take a walk, I go take a walk. I do try to maintain, a regular pattern of exercise every day with, lately I've been doing the 5 Tibetan rites, and I always do yoga and meditation in the morning. And so there are some things that have stayed the same. But in terms of my doing, as someone once called me, Catherine Ewing, the human doing, I didn't know whether that was a compliment or not. I think not. Anyway, but that pretty much described me to a T. And so I've really been trying to shift that energy and be less of a doing and more of a being. And I've just been noticing so many changes in myself, in my life, maybe not even noticeable to other people, but they're noticeable to me. Things like more spaciousness, things like not having a headache or pressure behind my eye every day, of feeling less of a rush or a pressure or an urgency, right, to do something right in this minute. I've always been driven by sort of some sense of urgency, like I was running behind, or I was late, or there was always something more that I needed to do. And so a lot of that has been calming down quite a bit. So that's sort of been my experience. And at the same time, continuing to see about half as many clients as I was seeing before. And in November, stepping into a year-long program called the Kairos Healers Academy. That's kind of a modern day mystery school, with quite an earth-based energy, but it's also involving business. How do we really create businesses that honor ourselves, where we bring our deepest gifts to the world in a way that shows our value for ourselves, our time, our abundance, our innate gifts. And so I've been really immersing myself in that as well, and really beginning to see my sense and my value quite differently as I sit in this container of 78 beautiful women. Whoops, I've got the carpenter bees that love to come and greet me this time of year. So I've been immersed in that, continuing to see clients. And one of the things that has come up so strongly in that container in Kairos, and also in my work, because it is part of the energy that is becoming more and more present on the planet, right? To accelerate this ascension process that we're in. And I talk about this a lot, right? It's moving us, it's presenting us with opportunities to clear old patterns, old programs, old blocks, old subconscious stuff that may still be influencing our lives at a level, to a degree, which we're in some ways unaware, but which continues to create lack or scarcity or drama or pain or disappointment or illness or sadness, whatever it is in our lives. And I have been seeing quite a bit recently, both in friends' lives, in clients' lives, and within groups like the Kairos group, or even in my personal community here. So many people struggling with health challenges. And so that's why this is called Are You Listening to Your Body? Because a very common theme that's coming through loud and clear is that there are repressed emotions, unhealed trauma. And I don't know all of these cases individually, but I've been doing this work long enough to be able to follow the threads, and many of them I do know individually, to see how this impact of suppressing emotions, particularly around childhood abuse, abandonment, family trauma, drama, multi-generational abuse, very often sexual abuse in nature, creates a toxic environment inside the body, which, if we are not really paying attention to the signals in our body, can really become quite critical before we realize there's anything wrong. As part of our program, we just recently read the book Five Personality Patterns by Stephen Kessler, which is a fabulous book. If you haven't read it, it's a little difficult reading because we see ourselves in the patterns and we're like, oh no, I have to look at that in myself, right? But the truth is, so he identifies 5 different patterns that, based on when trauma happened in our early childhood, sometimes, even in utero, right? And then through the most significant first 6 years of life, we develop a different coping pattern, a pattern where when we become overwhelmed with what's going on in our environment and then what is happening within our nervous system, that we take on a certain pattern to try to manage, right? Try to survive with that. So it could be a leaving pattern where we tend to dissociate or kind of go away in our minds. It can be kind of a merging codependency pattern when we try to please other people in order to get our needs met. It can be an enduring pattern where we just take everything and keep shoving it down, shoving it down, shoving it down. So, we're sort of very stoic and grounded, but we may be full of rage because we feel so powerless to really be seen or heard in the world. So leaving, merging, enduring, I forget the other one, rigid, which I can relate to, which is the doing part, right? The perfection, not so much perfectionism, but performance, right? Getting the good grades, being a good athlete, doing all the right things, following the rules, right? They could have put my name on the front page of that chapter and it would have been quite appropriate. So looking at the ways in which we have learned to survive. I know I use that word a lot, but it really is a very primitive survival mechanism in the brain that will, when triggered, cause us to create these different ways of adapting, right? So, and depending on your pattern, it may cause you to sort of disconnect, the leaving pattern, obviously dissociative, enduring, where we're just pushing everything down, rigid, where we may be up here operating in our head, but not connected to our body. So many of these patterns and ways of managing overwhelm and stress really disconnect us from what's going on, basically from the neck down. And then if you compound this with messages you may have gotten about your body when you were growing up, whether there was your boundaries were violated around verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, whether food was used as something positive, or whether it was withheld as something negative. There are just so many ways in which women in particular come to not even want to be in their body, or think that their body is ugly or terrible or wrong or sinful or just not good enough the way it is. And so I know I'm sort of meandering here, but I think what I really want to encourage you to do is, however you can find the resources and the ways to do this, whether it's 10 minutes each day of just sitting quietly and asking your body, do you have a message for me? Or what do you need from me today? Or is there something that needs my attention? Right? And just listening in. And at first, if this is new, there may not be anything there, or there may be some little feeling or something, but it doesn't really make any sense or mean anything to you. My encouragement would be to stay with it, because I've been saying this for years, but it's worth repeating. I have found that one of the most insidious, what's the word I want to, sorry, I just had a complete brain part of my exhaustion sometimes. One of the most insidious effects of abuse or betrayal or abandonment is that we learn not to trust. And particularly, we don't trust other people. We don't necessarily trust the world. We don't trust that our needs are going to be met. But for me, the most insidious is that we learn not to trust ourselves, particularly if you've ever been told that what you're trying to share or bring to someone's attention, like an adult, if someone touched you inappropriately, or whatever that may be, and you're told, oh, you must have just imagined that, or you must have made that up, or, oh, don't be silly, he just likes to cuddle with you, whatever the dismissal or the minimizing or the suppression of your truth is going to cause you two insidious results, actually. One is that you lose trust in your own body as being a true barometer of what's going on, because you've just been told that what you felt or what you think you felt is not true. And so as a child, then your thought is, well, I can't, I must have made that up. That must not really have happened, right? I can't trust my body, ultimately. The other thing is that you lose your voice, because you may be told, keep this a secret. Don't cry or I'll give you something to cry about. If you tell anybody about this, I'll just tell them you're a liar. Or if you say anything about this, your mother's going to be so angry with you, or your father's going to walk out of your life, or I'm going to hurt you, right? So there are, or again, as if you have tried to speak up about anything that's going on, whether it's just to express your feelings or whether it's about to disclose, something that's happening to you that's inappropriate, if that is not heard and accepted and honored by a responsible adult, you can learn that it's not okay for you to speak up, that you have no power, that your voice has no power, that no matter what you say, it doesn't make a difference, right? So, obviously there's so many layers here. There are so many things that could be talked about, but I want to kind of, wrap this up just by saying, find a way to have a regular check-in with your body. It's going to take some time if this is new, because your body has learned not to trust you, especially if you have been abusing it by being mean, by saying critical things, by judging yourself, by abandoning yourself, right? Your body, your inner children are not necessarily going to trust you either. So it's going to take some time to build that relationship. It's going to take a commitment on your part to say, I want this relationship with my body. I want this relationship with the younger aspects of myself who have held this energy for so long, right? So 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes, sit quietly, check in, maybe do some journaling, and just notice how that changes. You know, I just talked about where I was a year ago and where I am now. And so I can sort of look at that whole year and see how different I feel, how much has changed for me, even though on an external level, maybe other people wouldn't even be aware of that. But it doesn't matter, because this has mostly been deep internal work. And it all started because I had to just stop. I was exhausted. There were days where I had no option but to just go lay down. And I had to start paying better attention. I had to start listening to my body, discovering my own rhythms, honoring those rhythms, not overriding. And that's what I'm inviting you to do. If you feel tired, if there's any possible way, even if it's 5 minutes, close your eyes, move your body, vocalize, just do something to connect back in and let your body know, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm committed, and I'm doing my best to pay attention. So that's it. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your Friday and weekend. I hope it's beautiful where you are. We're having suddenly summer here in Connecticut. But I send you many, many blessings of love and light. And certainly, as always, if there's any way that I can support you, any questions you may have about anything I've said, please feel free to reach out. From my sacred heart to yours, have a beautiful day. Bye now.